Today I want to talk about how we made a feature film for only $4 to buy this. My new film, New Folder, is out now on YouTube, and the reaction to the film has been pretty funny to say the least. The film is a found footage film about a serial killer hunting down his next victim, like stalking down the next victim. That's pretty much it, honestly. I kind of just want to talk today about like where the film came from, how we came up with the film, how we shot the film, and how we made it for only $4. Every year around our anniversary, me and my wife take a little staycation to kind of like hang out during our anniversary, if you will. And I can't remember, one night we was either going out to eat or we were going to the grocery store, but we had just watched a found footage movie. And I was kind of ranting because something that kind of drives me up the wall is anytime I'm watching a found footage movie and I think to myself, why are you filming right now? And I'm not going to say what that movie was, but yeah, anytime there's like a moment where I go, why is this being filmed right now? It completely breaks me of the illusion. And I was just talking about like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if there was just like a found footage movie that even if it like destroys the narrative was just so hard in the found footage aesthetic that, you know what I mean? I was like, it just stayed within those limitations, even if the narrative kind of suffered, and thus New Folder was born. Now, I will say going into this right out of the gate that I said multiple times that if the narrative suffers from the aesthetic, that's fine as long as I can sell the aesthetic. And I do feel like we kind of did that. First off, I want to say I'm really proud of this movie. I also want to give a shout out to my wife, Autumn, who has just not only did New Folder and also acted in Shadow and Life for me, but has also been super supportive, you know, throughout my YouTube and kind of filmmaking journey, if you will, always just being supportive. And I just want to thank you for that. I love you. Thank you. But also, like, she's not an actor. I don't even know if she's had any interest to be involved with any of this stuff, but she's always been more than willing to step up and do stuff. And I can't thank her enough. I'm super happy that we were able to do this together. You know, when we was talking about doing this, I finally just like, you just want to make something? Like, you just want to make like a found footage or something? And she was on board. And so we did set some limitations for us to do this movie. So first and foremost was we didn't want to spend any money on this movie at all. We wanted to basically make this movie for nothing. And we had 2 days left of our staycation, so we wanted to make the entire film in 48 hours. We had 2 days left. We wanted to shoot the entire thing in 48 hours, come up with it and shoot it in 48 hours. Now, the editing that I'll talk about here in a little bit, that can just be done at any time that I have free time to do it. It didn't need to be done within the 48 hours. But so we sat down and we came up with the script, and here's the script. It is a 2-page outline. It's a 2-page outline. That's the entire script. Now, I will say, you know, when we set out to do this, we didn't set out to make a feature film. We just wanted to make something. And I don't know if it's my proclivities for long takes, but it ended up being a feature film. It is what it is. We went into writing this entire thing with the idea of like, we want to spend no money on this thing. So how can we make something that is resourceful to what we have? And something I had already been kind of tinkering with was the idea of voyeurism and just like how creepy it is to like not know that someone's watching you, you know what I mean? Like go throughout your day, but then also like how interesting and creepy it is to watch somebody without them knowing that you're watching them. I thought this would work perfect for a found footage movie. When we're talking about making a found footage film, this was just like a no-brainer. And to be fair, we could have made this film for nothing if we still had red food dye that I thought we had. We didn't have red food dye. This is the only thing we bought for the film. This was actually under $4. I rounded up to $4. This was like $3.70 or $3.80 something when tax was rounded into it. So technically the film was under $4. And if you want to get real technical about it, it would be even less because we didn't even use like a quarter of the bottle. You know, it could be considerably less because we will be using this on other projects and potentially food. So, you know what I mean? The whole idea of the story is basically like you're watching a VOD of a killer stream of them going through their footage. Like that's kind of like the whole idea of the film. And I know like I had several people reach out to me and was like, hey, is the intro supposed to be this way? And I'm like, yeah. I don't know why, but there was something about, in my opinion, like seeing that importation of the footage was just like, this has to be in the movie. Like I like this part of the movie, so it has to be in there. But so we wrote the whole idea to do the film within our restrictions, our budget, you know, what we had available to us. We shot the film in the house we live in. It's just me and my wife. That was kind of another restriction, is we wanted it to just be us. There was potentially going to be an opener where the killer's buying the camera at a yard sale, and we decided to kind of scrap that idea because we not only wanted to keep it just between us, like we didn't want to have to get a third party involved to play a part in the role, but also like we thought it would be really like a lot more creepy if when they're importing the folder there's other folders there. And also a fun little factoid, one of the thumbnails is Autumn. She's in one of the thumbnails. It's one of the clips from a Wong Kar-wai series we did, and actually she's wearing the same hoodie that she wears at one point in the movie. So fun little continuity error that I left in there to see if anybody would catch it. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, so we just wrote everything we had access to, and we shot the entire thing on this. This is a Samsung HMX F80. This is a 720p camcorder that I bought at a yard sale about a year and a half ago. I picked this up for $25, including it, 2 tripods, a monopod, a bag for this, and a Nikon DSLR with an extra lens, an extra battery, and a bag for that. Now I sold the Nikon for $50, so technically I got paid and got to keep this. So I earned money, made money, and got to keep this camera. We have used this camera on the Wong Kar-wai series. It's not a bad C or D camera if you really need that many angles, but it doesn't look like 720. This looks like probably like 360. Now I will say I was more than happy to shoot on something like this for this movie, because that kind of quality is exactly where I think a movie like this should be. There is something aesthetic with, you know, those mid 2000s camcorders that you just really can't replicate. And you know, if we were going to shoot this movie and I didn't have this, I got red food dye on me from the bottle, but if we didn't have this, I probably would have bought one. This model in particular I think only goes for like $20 on eBay, so you know, they're pretty inexpensive to find, but I'm glad we already had it. And we shot the entire thing. I think it's pretty obvious when you look at the film that it was shot for $4, but we shot the entire thing using the onboard microphone, which allowed that wind to really blister through. We also shot the film, you know, just all handheld, holding it. I shot 90% of the movie. The little bit that I'm in the movie, you can see through windows, my wife shot. There was 2 things about this camera that really kind of, I wasn't expecting, that I really enjoyed. One is being when you would zoom in and out with the zoom wheel, you can hear the gears moving to zoom the lens, and that gets picked up in the audio. So it was like a nice little bit of noise to add into the audio. But then on top of that was at night, because this thing sucks in so much low light, that when you're shooting and it's like pitch black outside, you can only see like the window. So it really kind of adds like this cool visual of like you can only see the window and it's just black, you know, around everything else. I kind of like that aspect of it. One thing though is the LCD screen does show you a brighter image than what is being recorded, and the scene where the killer goes into the bedroom while she's sleeping. Spoilers, I am going to spoil this movie a little bit, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then go check the film out. But spoilers. But when the killer goes into the bedroom, the scene, it looked a lot brighter on the LCD, and then on the playback, I had to crank that footage so hard, like basically to the brink to where it was falling apart, to even try to get a potential like outline to tell what was going on in the scene. Realistically, you know, after looking at it, if we wanted to break that 48-hour mold, we could have reshot it. I have lighting already, so we could have used light reflectively to just kind of naturally like amplify the scene without looking artificial. That was one thing that was with this little camera, but I like this little guy. I was pretty happy with using it and what the footage ended up looking like. You know, the entire film, I said from the get-go that I don't really care if the narrative is lost as long as we sell the aesthetic of the film. And I do feel like we sold the aesthetic of the film. I like the kind of structure of just like going through the clips, and when I was going into the editing process, I knew when we were going to shoot, I wanted the clips to feel natural, as in like you press on and you're recording the footage and the killer's turning off when it cuts to the end of the footage. That's what I wanted it to feel like, and most of the scenes, that's exactly what had happened. I think that might be why we ended up having so many like long takes, because it just felt natural in the moment to film for that long, if that makes any sense. We didn't set out to make a feature film, we just ended up having a feature at the end of it, and I think partially why is because of that mentality of going into the editing process. Now, we didn't shoot this thing chronological because we didn't have the time for it. We shot this thing in 48 hours, so we'd had to shoot out of chronological order. So most of the editing was pretty much just me reorganizing clips, getting rid of we didn't have like a lot of bad takes, but we did have some things in there that were like either bad takes or were test takes, if you will, to see what they would look like. So, you know, had to remove those, reorganize them. And I did name the files based off of how the camera records the files, which is why they're like HD, whatever, or I can't remember exactly what they say. And then when it comes to the editing, there was mainly just like one section we did edit out of the film originally in the framework. We did a record instead of a stream, and then we did a showing to our friends, and after talking, we changed it to streaming, which is what it should have been all along. I just thought the recording would have been easier than actually, like, because I actually streamed this to my Twitch, putting together the one take, if you will. I actually streamed that process on Twitch, and I just thought it would be easier to do it on recording, but changing it to stream, I think it makes more sense. And then what I did was there was a section originally where the killer follows her to a store, and I did cut that whole segment out for a couple reasons. One of them being licensed music playing in the background at the store, catching random people in the background, stuff like that. And it was only like a minute and a half, and while it did add a little bit of a creepy factor, it didn't add enough to, like, I don't know, I just felt like that it just shouldn't be there, so I cut it out. Outside of that, the editing was literally just going through the footage one by one, making sure they're in order, and that's pretty much it. Pretty simple edit process. I will say this though, we are a $4 budget, if you will, and we have been able to make that back and profit thanks to YouTube ad rev. So on paper, technically, New Folder is a 72-minute one take that was profitable. No, but in all seriousness, I do hope you enjoy the film if you have watched it. I love seeing the reaction it's had. It's been kind of polarizing, which I think is hilarious. And it's on Letterboxd if you want to rate it on Letterboxd as well. I'm trying to get it on IMDb. I just haven't sat down to actually do that yet. There will be a link in the description to the film if you do want to check it out. But yeah, that's how we made the film in in 48 hours for under $4. And I gotta admit, I'm really proud of this one. We gave ourselves some stringent restrictions. We were able to make the film within those restrictions. And I do want to say one thing is just, again, I want to shout out my wife for doing an amazing job. And that ending scene, I know there's been some mixed reactions to that end scene, but like, I can't commend her enough. During that scene, not only did she have to try to perform, but she is the one applying the blood to herself. So she's applying the makeup, and she did a great job. She got it like in her nose, so it looks like it's kind of coming out of her nose. And you know, if we had more time, more of a budget, we could have done something more gruesome. But considering the time and the restrictions that we put on ourselves, I'm pretty happy with how that ending piece came out. I'm pretty happy with how the entire film came out, and I can't thank my wife enough for doing this with me. I hope you enjoy the film, and if you want to support the channel, you can consider becoming a member or a Patreon. It's $1 a month, so 4 of you is a complete New Folder movie almost, basically. I'm not saying I'd make another one, but it's kind of hilarious to think about. And yeah, you can check out all the links to all my other stuff down in the description as well, my gaming channel, Twitch, whatever. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.